Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have two different card ideas that I want to share, which feature a little bit of masking and a little bit of simple stamping. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have two different card ideas that I want to share with you. One features just a little bit of masking, and then the other features the leftover piece from creating the mask. So you can actually create two cards just simply by using this one technique. Now the cards in this video feature the Petal Park stamp set from Stampin Up. And this particular stamp set comes with a coordinating punch. So you can get this as a bundle with the punch and the stamp set. And the Petal Park Bundle coordinates very nicely with the Sentimental Park stamp set. So that is where I got all the greetings that I'm using on the cards today. Okay, so let's get started and I'll show you how to make these adorable little cards. Okay, so first we are going to talk about how to create the mask so that we could do some ink blending. So I am going to be using white cardstock for the base of my card. So this is just your standard card base. It is 5.5 by 8.5 and it's scored in the middle at 4.25 inches to create the base of the card. So the next thing I did is just cut a piece of white cardstock which measures 4.25 by 5.5 inches. So this will fit perfectly over our card front. So basically what I did is I took that 4.25 by 5.5 inch piece and I used one of my rectangular dies. So these are the stitched rectangle dies. And I just ran this through my embossing machine so that I could cut a little window in this piece of cardstock. Now this piece, this rectangular piece that I cut out here, this we are going to save to make card number 2. So we'll just set this aside. And this is what we are going to use to do our masking. Now you can use any shape that you want. I just happen to choose a rectangular shape, but a circle, a square, or anything that you have on hand will work just fine for this masking technique. Okay, so you want to add a little piece of scrap paper behind the item that we're going to mask here. So I just added that scrap piece and I have my mask laying directly on top of the card front. So I'm going to do my sponging or my inking right on top of the card front. So I like to just use a little bit of washi tape just to kind of hold this down. And then I'm going to be using some balmy blue ink and I'm going to be using a little blending brush. So we'll open up our balmy blue ink and basically what we're going to do is we're just going to grab some ink with our brush. So I like to just get a little bit of the ink off and then I start brushing it onto my mask. So I kind of start off the space that I want to blend with some ink and that kind of helps avoid, you know, some of the lines that you get when you're blending. So you kind of start off and then you come on to the project. And so I'm just going to be adding ink all the way around kind of the edges of this rectangular shape. I'm not going to add ink throughout the whole entire rectangular shape. I just want kind of like a little bit of shadowing so that I can kind of spotlight the image that I will be using. Okay, so then once you've added the ink, then you can go ahead and remove the mask. So I just lift this up and then take off the mask and you have a really nice image in the center of your card front. And so you can reuse this mask as often as you want. You can create as many cards as you would like with this mask. So now that we've created the mask, I want to create all the little flowers that I'm going to be using to decorate this card. So let me show you how I did that. So there's two different images in this particular stamp set. So one is an outline image and the other one is a fill-in image. And I'm going to bring my scrap paper back in. And I'm going to start by stamping the outline image. So I'm using the Balmy Blue ink, and I'm just going to stamp 2 sets. And then I'm going to take the fill-in image. So this is a 2-step stamp. And I'm going to stamp off first, and then I'm going to overlay it onto that outline image and then stamp it again. So this just gives a lighter shade of this balmy blue. So you use, the full-on strength to stamp your outline, and then you stamp off to add the color on the inside. So you can see the outline is darker than the inside. So we're going to do the same thing with the yellow. Okay, so now let's use our punch and cut these out. So basically, the punch fits right over all 3 of these flowers, and you just have to line it up and then punch out the images. Okay, so now that we have all the flowers cut, I'm going to show you a little tip for using this large leaf image that's in the set. So it is a 2-step stamp. I'm going to be using the mint color for my leaves. And basically what we're going to do is we'll ink this up, and I'm going to stamp it actually on a scrap piece of paper first. And I'll show you why. So that's what the image looks like. Now there is a coordinating image, the solid image that fills in the color in these leaves. But as you can see, it's a very, I don't want to call it flimsy, but it moves around. So you don't want to just adhere it to your block. What you actually need to do is lay it over the top of the stamped image. So that's why I stamped this image on a scrap piece of paper. So I just want to lay this over the top so that I get these leaves aligned with that other image. And then I can just take my block and set it on top and pick up the image. So that way then it's all set for you. We'll just ink this up, and I'm going to stamp off first. And then we'll stamp over the top just to make sure that it lines up. So then you get the image that's lined up, and you get a really nice image. So that's just a little tip for how to kind of line up these very large images in the Petal Park stamp set. Okay, so now you know how to create the flowers, and you know the little tip for stamping the leaves. So now we are ready to put our first card together. So I'm going to ink up this large image. So this is the outline image, and I'm inking it up with the mint color for the leaves. And I'm just going to kind of stamp this off to the side here, right over the top of the mask. And then I'm going to take my leaves, and I'm just inking those up. And then I'm just going to bring in my scrap paper. So just so you can see, I'm stamping off. And then I'm going to stamp this right over the top of this image. And now you can fill it in with some of those florals that we cut out earlier. So you can stamp them. You can stamp the image here, and it'll stamp all 3 of those just like that. But I decided to not stamp it on here since we did a little bit of masking. So I'm just going to adhere the florals just using a couple dimensionals. So that's our first piece, just kind of layered together there in the center. And then I have my other 2 flowers. Now I just added dimensionals on all of these, and then I just kind of popped them up on different parts of the card front. So I'm basically using 3 of each of these 2 colors. So I have 3 flowers that are blue and 3 that are in the yellow color. So I thought that 2 of them went together. So you have 6 little flowers on there. So the next thing I did is just stamped a greeting on a scrap piece of blue. This is Balmy Blue, and I used Night of Navy to stamp the greeting. And then I just cut it out with the scissors and just adhered it to the card. So this is about a 1/2 inch wide piece. And then this piece is a 1/4 inch wide. So it says, let's celebrate your anniversary. So that's really it. And then you can just add any kind of embellishments you want. I used a couple milky dots here, but you could definitely use pearls or anything else that you have on hand. Okay, so card number 2 features that leftover rectangular shape. So I am going to show you how I created this card. So we'll start with that rectangular shape. So the first thing I'll do is just ink up the leaf image. And then we will stamp this kind of right in the center. So again, I'm using the mint color for the leaves. And then we'll do the same thing for the solid image. Just ink that up, and this time I'm going to stamp off. And then I'm going to add it right as an overlay to my outlined leaves. So these are the 6 flowers that we created, the blue and the yellow. So again, I'm just going to take these larger ones and just kind of overlay them together a little bit. And we will just pop these up right in here. And then we'll just set this aside before we put the rest of those flowers on. And we're just going to create the base of the card here, the background. So I have my white cardstock for the base of the card. And then I just cut a 4 1/4 by 3 inch piece of one of the pattern papers from the Regency Park Designer Series paper pack. I simply cut a piece of the mint cardstock, and this is 3 1/4 inches long. And it can be any kind of scrap piece because we're only going to show just a little bit of it on the side. So I'm going to add some glue here on the side, and we'll just tuck this little piece in there. Okay, so I added some dimensionals to the back, and we can just go ahead and pop this up right on the card front. So now we can just go ahead and add the rest of the flowers. So I have 4 flowers left, and the first thing I did is I just added one of the yellow flowers, kind of the medium size flower, right here on the side. And then I popped up one of the other flowers, the blue ones. So I kind of coordinated the blue and the yellow together. Now before I add the other flowers, I'm going to add my greeting. So again, I just stamped this greeting on a scrap piece of Balmy Blue cardstock. So it's about a 1/4 inch wide. These are pretty small words or small greetings that are in that particular set. So it's just a 1/4 inch. I stamped it and then just kind of trimmed it down. So what I'm going to do is add a little dimensional on the side of this greeting. So we'll just add a little dimensional over here because that's going to hang off of our card. And then we'll add a little bit of glue over here. And this is going to go right up at the top here over the top of the yellow flower. So I'm kind of covering up the bottom of that yellow flower. And then the anniversary one is just going to go down on the bottom a little bit. So we will just put this right about here. And now we can go ahead and add the rest of our flowers. And that's it. And of course you can add whatever embellishments you want. I added a couple little milky dots, but you can use pearls or whatever you have on hand. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 2 different card ideas featuring the Petal Park Bundle from Stampin' Up. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.